Welcome to the Globally Connected podcast. Today, we're in for a treat. We're going to be taking a little pivot and talking about something different but relatable to everyone. And it's going to be a great topic that you can really take away. So,
Mhm.
I'll pass it over to Gigi and we'll get this party started.
Hey, everybody. So, as we all know, your environment shapes who you are. But what if you're not changing your environment? What is this actually doing to you? So, today we're going to talk about how comfort could actually be a trap and it can actually be dangerous to stay in your comfort zone because if you are stuck in your comfort zone, you're not expanding. You are rather just staying where you are and possibly even shrinking. So, we'll go ahead and dive deeper into this topic and we're going to talk about what the comfort trap actually means. We'll share some personal experiences and how people actually grow through the discomfort of being in a new environment. So, what exactly is a comfort trap? Well, psychologists actually define this specifically as something called the status quo bias. And what the status quo bias means the tendency to actually prefer what is familiar to you even if it's actually limiting your progress because since you're so familiar to it you can't really tell that it's actually limiting your progress. So for example, psychologists and scientists have actually found that if you are actually in a familiar environment all the time, you're actually reducing the stimulation of your brain's hippocampus, which is actually linked to your memory and learning. So that is why when you're actually moving and being in new environments, or whether it's just going to a conference in a foreign location, you're actually giving your brain more of an ability to formulate memories, to critically think more. So it has many, many benefits for you to be in an environment that is different. So, Jerome, I want to ask you personally about an experience that you've had when you've been in a new environment and how you feel this has shaped you as a person, as you're thinking, and just things that you've observed overall from your experience.
Traveling out of the I'll start with just abroad. Traveling out of the country, just going into a new environment. Like I'll start with something simple like the airport. I think a lot of people like kind of don't take in importance the little things, the little small details about life that can be different and cause you to think differently compared to what you may be accustomed to. For example, the airport. Typically in the States, airports are somewhat the same as far as like architectural wise, aside of JFK, Atlanta, and maybe LA, etc., the big major hubs. But outside of that, the other ones are typically the same. But however, just being the airports such as Amsterdam, Dubai, etc. The airports and like how they're actually configured and designed, it made me think like, wow, the way they design is from let's say a tech aspect is totally different from how the airport in America is different from the way they think technologically, the food choices. But that again, that goes back to taste and preferences. But that just made me think like, okay, this part of the world is more advanced when it comes to food and tech, and this part of us not so much. So that will cause you to think outside of the box and leads you to kind of like up your cuisine or choices with food. Just thinking about different things that you may have never thought of before, which leads to mine to want to grow to new dimensions. And another thing, the music may be played differently. The music in Atlanta airport is totally different from the music in the Thailand airport. I'm sure you can relate to that. So it's just little things such as that I've noticed that we could kind of not pay attention to that can cause us to just take our minds to new heights and think differently. So I start small before I get into the big things.
Yeah, that's some great insight and perspective. Like every time I'm in the airport, I get super excited. Like I just feel like there's so much opportunity out there. There's so many people there that have their own journey, going their own places from all different walks of life. There's people on business trips, there's people going to visit family, there's people reuniting with people after years. So it's just such an exciting place and even just the energy of the area just already it's like generates so much creativity and is like very thought provoking. So I really love that. What would you say about a particular experience where you've actually been to a country abroad and how that may have shaped the personality that you have per se or your decision making?
All right, so that's another great question. So I'm gonna do this in reverse order based on the countries that I've been to. So I'll start with the most recent country, Senegal. the primary language spoken there is French. So that made me think like, okay, I have to challenge myself to number one, understand what is being said. Number two, understand how I could make myself comfortable and be related upon in this environment to not be offended, but also feel like I belong. Because a lot of times when you in scenarios like that, you could feel isolated. So that was one thing, the language, the food. That was another thing, being pescatarian and not eating meat. That's something where it's like, okay, I have to adapt myself to something, but also I just have to like think outside of the box and get creative with my meals. And a lot of the meals over there was kind of the same. So we kind of got tired of eating those things. So that was one thing. But the main thing I take away from, I would say, what I learned about myself in that in the environment such as Senegal is that you actually can become fluent in the language of French. It just takes time. And you can be in an environment where there's just a lot of unknowns in the environment, but that actually makes you push yourself and challenge yourself. And the biggest takeaway I have from that is be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because a lot of times I was in a lot of uncomfortable situations, yet I was forced to be able to become comfortable being uncomfortable. Dubai, that was that was actually the place where I felt like I had to like be outside of myself the most. And I don't know why. I don't know why Dubai was like that. That was like 7 years ago I've been there, but
When you say like be out of yourself, like what do you mean? How did you feel when you were there?
I felt like I felt like a little kid the entire trip, but I just remember I probably want to say the second day, because that was like my first time experiencing jet lag, and nobody gave me the blueprint or how to actually beat jet lag. I didn't learn how to beat jet lag until I got back to the States. But I just felt like a little kid in the playground or at a candy store, just wanting to try everything. And I just remember my very fond memory, first encounter. I just remember leaving the hotel and just walking around Dubai. I had seen payphones. That was like my first time seeing payphones, and it's like since a little kid, because in America it's kind of like obsolete now. But I just remember seeing payphones, and I was like, wow, payphones exist in another country. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then you just see clothes hanging out all over the place. You see like a lot of vintage buildings. There wasn't no crime in Dubai. It was very peaceful. That's probably outside of South Africa. That's probably the most peaceful place I've been on this earth yet. The water, everything. It was just it's hard to explain, man. It's really hard to explain, to be honest.
Mhm. Yeah, that's very interesting insight. So, you explain like what you saw when you go to these places. Now, how do you think this actually shaped you as a person when you returned or when you just move on with life in general?
It made me want to change everything about my identity. Like, obviously, the world know by now, if not already. I was born in a small town in an impoverished area where 99 or 98.9% of people don't make it off that block. Um, so it made me want to change everything about myself. Like, the types of foods that I eat, the type of music that I listen to, because where I grew up at, the type of music that we listen to was just straight trap music. Um, the type of food cuisines you eat is just American, chicken wings, fries, etc. Even though where I grew up at home wise, my mom always made sure my body was well nourished and I had vegetables, etc. And plus, I always was like self conscious about my health as well. I always worked out, etc. But I just wanted to change everything and become more eclectic. Like I wanted to listen more to like just every genre of music, have friends from all walks of life, change my fashion up. I just want to change everything about myself. But I always been that type of person. I just never was placed in the environment where I could actually express or tap into that part of myself. But yeah, to answer your question, I just wanted to completely change everything about myself. Like it was like that when we went to last one to Senegal. It just hit me like, man, I'm still too Americanized. Like, I mean, no disrespect to America, but I don't like being too Americanized. I like being cultured, because I feel like when you are cultured, you really get to understand yourself more, but also sympathize and connect with the rest of the world.
So, the thing that has been proven and the thing that we'll speak more on is that actually, like, moving forces you to solve problems. So when you move, you're going to be met with a lot of different challenges. Like Jerome mentioned, you're in an environment where there's a new language. You're uncomfortable. You have to find solutions. If you're For example, you're pescatarian, you have to find maneuver through it, find solutions of what you're going to eat. So you're constantly on your feet thinking, being forced to be adaptable and to find new solutions. And that specifically right there is one of the key reasons why you should leave your hometown. Because when you're forced to be adaptable, you're actually wiring your brain to be more creative and more resilient. So I'll speak from my personal experience. Like, my most recent experience where I felt like I was in a new environment was I lived in Thailand, and with that came challenges of like figuring out like immigration process, finding out where to live, even for example, like touring places, figuring out what area is good, weighing out the things. So it just makes you solve problems more, be more adaptable, and be on your feet about how to communicate. So, for example, like for the most part, I can't communicate in Thai, and there are certain situations where you need to communicate in Thai. So, what would I do? Well, I have to be adaptable and find a solution. So I'll use like Google Translate Transcribe. And for example, I'll be in the taxi and my taxi driver, he's speaking in Thai. I'm transcribing it so I can hear what he's saying. And then I respond back. And actually, these ended up being some of the deepest, most amazing conversations I had. Like, we'd get so deep about family, about life, about the value of life. And it also is a big reminder that no matter where you come from, no matter what walk of life you come from, you bring value anywhere you go in some way or another. Like, there you can learn from other people and they can learn from you. And even if you are so different from your environment, you still belong there and you're still meant to be there in that moment. Traveling is really proof of how interconnected we are as people, because it's like you go somewhere and you can still connect with someone where you guys grew up like 10,000 miles plus away from each other, can't even communicate in the same language, don't look the same, and somehow you're still able to form a bond and share a smile and talk with each other and take a valuable life lesson from it. That's truly beautiful. So I think that just helps you build empathy towards other people in the world and that ability to have cultural intelligence, which is another thing that leaving your hometown can really help you do. So that's my perspective from kind of like what I've learned through traveling.
Yeah, I would say, man, I've made a lot of big decisions in my life, but I would probably say leaving my hometown was probably the number one best decision I ever made in my life. Which led me to the second best decision in my life was probably going to college. But in this context, yeah, leaving my hometown was probably the best decision I've made in my life yet because that exposure, man, and there's a saying, I can't verbatimly remember it at the moment, but it says travel because when you travel, you get to write your own story. Something like understanding a story, something like that, but I can't remember it. But that saying really is true. Like you really traveling does something to the brain. And I can honestly say like it has done something for me and also just being able to just meet people from all walks of life. Like and it's like, wow, like you actually have a lot in common. Even though we aren't the same race, we actually have a lot in common. Like we like the same type of music, we have the same type of interest, books, all that type of stuff. So yeah, that's probably been the best thing that I have probably done in my life yet is leave my hometown.
Definitely, absolutely. So I'll add on a couple of benefits that you can get from traveling and leaving your hometown. So as we've mentioned, cultural intelligence, as well as it's actually also through many studies been seen that people who travel around and go around have a bigger professional network, a stronger professional network, and a higher chance of increasing their income range. And also, you are able to form a global team and be a leader more when you travel more because you're gaining that emotional intelligence to understand different people and know how to work with different people. So there's many benefits that you can actually get from your personal life and professional life as well from this travel. So how about you, Jerome? What are some of the benefits that you would say people get from leaving their hometown?
Exposure, that's the most important thing because as I was telling you off camera, you have very humble beginnings as well. If you when you come from an environment where you have very humble beginnings, a lot of times a lot of young girls and young boys, they don't get the chance to get exposure. Um, Number one, you get adaptability. Well, one, you get exposure. Two, you get to learn more about yourself. I feel like that's the number one investment you get when you leave your hometown. You get to learn about yourself, and other benefits that you get is you get to understand the world more. I think that's the benefit as well. You get to understand the world more from all angles. And it's like the little intangibles as far as like what people go through, how they communicate their news, how businesses is taken care of, how education systems are ran, how kids learn and process information. That's a benefit. And then I think the most important benefit that a lot of people may not have thought about is you really get to find your tribe and your family outside of your family. I think that's the biggest thing that you get
Absolutely.
from leaving your hometown
Yeah,
because a lot of times when you grow up, a lot of your family, y'all separate. Not even personally. Sometimes it's just because that's just how life is. So when you travel and leave your hometown, you actually really find your family and your tribe that really matches your identity and the inner child that you always wanted to be. So those are some benefits that I have.
absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree with that too. And it's like when you travel, you also are meeting other people that could also be by passage too, that are also passing through the same place that you are, and they're also on their adventure too. So you can connect on a different level. So, all right. So, closing remarks for this episode is actually going to be what are some practical steps that you can take? And we completely understand like it's not possible to always just pack up and move right away. So, what are some things that you could do? Whether it's something starting small, such as like a small experiment for a couple weeks. What are some things that you guys can do to actually explore out of your hometown and gain more cultural intelligence and just understand more about your environment. So, Jerome, I'll let you go ahead first.
First and foremost, do a vision board. I think that's a big thing. Do a vision board and map out, just do three places, three of your favorite places outside of America that you want to travel to or that you saw on TV. Start with doing a vision board, one. Number two, find you a friend that you could go with. If you can't do that, then go by yourself. It's fine to travel by yourself. Three, I would say set a timeline. Give yourself a year to at least travel to one place. So set a goal, a realistic goal. I'll probably say that's the last one. How about you, Gigi? What are some practical suggestions you have?
Yeah. So, understood that you can't necessarily just pick up and move right away. Something that you can start off with, even in your hometown, is like finding a new community within your hometown of people to engage with and talk to. So, for example, maybe you want to think about your personal health more, like getting into a community of fitness people and learning from them and talking to them and forming new friendships and connections there is already a great way to expand your mind. I think that's a great start too. Something else is, I think if you are in university or if you're in school, like it'd be great to explore doing like a semester abroad somewhere. Like I think that's a great stepping stone to start your experience abroad. And something else could also be to have the ability to work remotely, like doing a digital nomad experience somewhere, whether that's for a month somewhere, finding like digital nomad hubs and communities will be really good. And yeah, I would say like just try to find even just a small opportunity, even if it's like you go do a volunteer program somewhere, you go on a work trip somewhere, you go to an international conference, you go to a national conference outside of your city, just trying something new. And we definitely understand like travel is a huge gift and something that should be very appreciated and not taken for granted because not everybody has the chance to travel all the time and not everybody has the flexibility of travel. So it truly is something to be very grateful for and to not take for granted and to actually learn from other people as you travel, and connect with people. So definitely I'm very grateful for the experiences I've had to leave my hometown and to travel. And I'm very conscious that not everybody has the same opportunity as well. And I hope that we can all travel, explore, and go to places if that is what we actually want to do. And also understood too that some people prefer to stay in their comfort level and that is what works for them too. So that's totally okay as well. So if leaving your hometown is something you are interested in doing, definitely take that leap. It all starts with booking that flight or taking that ride or exploring a new community. So, yeah, that's all for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Jerome, do you have any closing remarks?
No, I would just say get a passport, guys. Please. It's not that expensive. But get a passport. You know, I remember when I got my passport, I literally cried because it's like, man, I got access to the entire world. There's no limitations now. And that's like the last thing I have with you guys. Get a passport and just leave your comfort zone, please, because you really get to learn who you are. So that's you have to. But that's all I have left. We appreciate you guys for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next week for another episode of the Globally Connected Podcast.